Hello, friends. It is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020, about 1:30 p.m. Late noon? Of course, during this time of the year, it starts to feel like it's 5 or 6 o'clock. And I do apologize if you hear my stomach grumbling. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know if I don't feel hungry, but who knows. Did drink a bit of coffee. Maybe that was it today. More than I want to. I try to keep it to 1 cup a day. I've been relatively successful, but there are days where you kind of break that. But I'm not dressed for the occasion. It wasn't planned. Just thought I'd make a little visit to my grandmother's grave. Yeah, I mean, I'm not dressed for the part. It was unplanned. I drove out somewhere to just take a walk somewhere I hadn't been, and thought to myself, I hadn't been in a while. I'll go take a visit, at the very least, clean up a bit around her gravestone. So it's hard to believe it's been almost 2 years. That was January, I believe, or February 2019. But yeah, I mean, she needed to rest. I'm not gonna do that thing where you hope somebody passes, but she was clearly at that stage in life where she had passed long ago, if you will, but physically still alive, but not in any way, shape, or form living. So she needed to rest. So yeah. I've mostly what a year. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to live in the past or dwell on anything, but yeah, 2019 was not a great year. But maybe sometimes in order for you to start waking up, you got to feel a bit of pain, right? That's all right. In some ways, that fateful walk with the shooting upper back pain. Maybe looking back now, I have to say, in some ways, maybe it's like the cascade effect of things that happened. Maybe it was for the best, but we don't need to get into it more than that. And yes, I know I've got a thin neck. I swear it wasn't until I lost a bit of weight, which I am officially down to 187 pounds. I did have one day where I went for like a really long walk, and I think just through the burning of calories and whatever like water weight that I lost, I clocked in at 185. But after drinking some water, I'm officially at 187 and steadily going down, all that good stuff. But I'm not going to get into any of the fitness stuff too much in this video. But my dad even made a comment about how you guys start working out your neck. You have a small neck. I mean, it's like, yeah, when you have a random comment like that from somebody, it's usually okay, so it's not just in my mind. Yeah, it is. So I have started doing a neck workout after my main calisthenics stuff. So it's definitely one of those things that, yeah, when you got a small neck, it definitely makes you look kind of weird. So, but yeah, nothing to it but to do it. Just do it and let what's going to happen. So anyway, as I said, this video is not really about fitness or anything like that much. I don't even know if I've had some random thoughts that I'd probably string together and maybe talk about a possible return next year for potentially one last ride, if you will. But we'll get to that later. I don't know if I'll be able to tie any of this together. I thought about, have I learned anything? What have I learned from vlogging? Just in general, if you're going to go out on platform, whatever it is, and you're going to vlog or make videos or something like that, what have I learned? What mistakes have I made? If you're somebody who's you want to get into YouTube or something like that, are there any lessons that you can learn that might potentially be useful? And it's almost like these roles you play and the path that you have to follow, both on the platform, if you will, but in life too. It's almost like these, I haven't really done much research about it, but it almost is like there's something to this whole archetypes and the path that you need to follow with it. And if you don't, that's to your negative in a way. Definitely I'm not even sure where to start with that one. I think when you put yourself out there, if you will, there's a reason for it, and that's sort of the thing. And you kind of need to stick to the thing and follow it through and not mix the flavors too much or add too much unnecessary something else, if gaming is your thing, that's kind of what you need to do, and stick to that and try to get better at it. Don't start trying to add all sorts of other stuff, especially when people get into, I hate to use the word controversial, but just like things that might set people off too much. And then you're just kind of diluting and mixing up what the thing is. Like if you start talking about how, you're out of shape, don't feel good, that sort of becomes your thing, and you need to more or less stick to that, and also show that eventual journey and the progress and all that stuff, or else you become a dud. You become a dud, and then you're just kind of there to be laughed at, mocked, have people angry at, because you're not giving them the story, so to speak, that they want to see. It's like once it's put out there and the process has started, it is ultimately a show, and people want to see it. They kind of know deep within of how it's supposed to go, and they want to see it out till the end. So when you kind of break when you don't give the people what they want, it's where things go bad. And also for you, because you're kind of not walking the thing you're supposed to walk. I know this all sounds super weird. It all sounded a lot better in my head, but I'll just go ahead and talk about it. It's like, with me, I started, admittedly at first there was a bit of the whole 28-year-old virgin, blah, blah, forever alone. But I think the general thing was just, you're this kind of lost, confused, empty person. And so the general thing is some sort of like self-improvement and trying to overcome things and moving in a better direction. The things that I did was just like the endless dwelling about the women, this and that, and I need to get into it, and the stuff with, I should have stayed away from the gaming completely. Just even like both in terms of like YouTube, but even for myself, I'm not saying gaming is necessarily a bad thing, but for somebody like me, the last thing that I need to be concerned with is leveling up fictional non-existent characters and saving non-existent worlds. For somebody who's spent their entire life in La La Land and up here, that is the last thing you need, is more of that. And also I should have stayed away from any sort of politics or too much controversial and just talking too much about current events. It's like your thing, you were supposed to show the improvement and you failing, embarrassing yourself, and then learning and then trying to improve. And so any of this stuff where you go down the route of just I need to throw in my opinion just like everyone else, and the election and blah blah and then this and that. Like, no, you don't need to. You don't need to, because there's no point. That is not the story that you need to tell and worry about on here. I was just thinking about how when you have these celebrities come out and then start trying to make comments about who you need to vote for, who you need to support, etc. Your thing is just to do your nightly comedy show that you have a team of writers write your jokes. Just do that. That's your thing. Do that, do it well, and you don't need to lecture people on, with your it's your standard, the celebrities get together and they make that video about some sort of cause, and now we need to tell others, no, that's not your thing. Your thing is to do your thing, So, not that I think I'm a celebrity or I'm great or anything like that, but there is a sort of parallel to it where, I should have just stayed away from some of this stuff, and I think I'm going to go through and probably just private all of the gaming videos. They don't need to be on here. So, I was just, how do I put it this way? Everyone's got an opinion. And it's very, very, you really want to, especially depending on your demeanor, I want to go out there and talk about this or talk about that. But, like I said, that's kind of not your place. You need to stay in your corner and I hate the phrase, but stay in your lane. That's not what people want from you. They're not looking for comments on this or that. You are there to deliver a certain thing, and that's all you got to worry about. You start deviating too much from that, and it's not going to go well. So, I was just thinking about how if you kind of lost my train of thought. If somebody watches you and agrees with your opinions on this and that, okay, what does that change? Oh, I watch somebody because I agree with the way they think. Okay, well, what does that benefit you to hear more of what you agree with in that person? And then there's the people who don't care and they're not interested. And those, of course, that you just end up making angry because they don't agree with any of that. And so what was the point of even talking about any of that? Yeah. And then you just end up, by going out of what you should, you just kind of end up losing sight of the things that a lot of you maybe can agree on and do share, right? So, yeah, I think that is definitely one massive, that is probably the lessons that I've learned about from vlogging, if you will. I don't know if any of that made sense, but don't mix up the flavor too much. There's probably a reason why you started doing the thing you're doing. It's probably because there's a reason for it. Now you need to see it to its end. That's more or less the only reason people might be interested in watching. You don't need less of the, let me do vlogs, but then I'm not really making any progress, and then gaming, and then start talking about stuff that people are very polarizing and this and that, and just don't, you can see this all over YouTube, right? And well, anyway, I don't know, that was completely, now that I've actually said that, somehow it doesn't seem very, seems kind of dumb now. But the other thing is how the tie-in of how it almost is these, it's almost these sort of archetypes that exist, that there's almost something to it where you kind of have to, you don't have to, but you probably should follow through. And that is almost, in a way, your path, and wherever it ultimately leads, that's kind of your journey. You can ignore the call to your peril, but that is probably your journey. I mean, as I said earlier, my thing is that the story for me to play out, and God, I know this all sounds so self-centered and narcissistic, but I mean, hopefully you kind of get what I'm going on. Hopefully you kind of see the tie-in to all of this, is that the thing for me to play out is, all right, I mean, you're the loser, the whatever, the this. We don't need to get into any self-depreciating. The only thing for you to worry about is you stop feeling sorry for yourself. You go out there and you give it your all, and you either overcome it or you're crushed by the thing at the end. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't need to try to convince anyone of, like, you don't need to start getting into, like I said, any gaming and worrying about any of that, or let me start making a political commentary, or trying to just, no, that's not for you. It's sort of that, it's like the equivalent of, you watch one of these underdog stories, and that is whole. The under picnic. The thing that you're expecting. The thing that you're expecting is, all right, this is like the team from the small town. They don't have enough money for all the sports equipment, but they made it to the big game, and they're going to face the players that have all the training and the this. And what you are expecting is, all right, they go out there, they go on the field, they give it their all, and they either like score a touchdown at the very end and win, or they just weren't good enough ultimately, but they gave it their all. That's the story. That is the story, if you had to kind of think of it that way. Like, what you would, if you were to watch one of these movies and it was like, this team didn't do that, instead they just complained about how they don't have this, they don't have that, you'd probably think to yourself, wow, this movie sucks. So I was just kind of trying to think of my general, if I had to think, I feel like I had a conversation with somebody a while ago about archetypes, and they told me to look at it, but I never did. But for some odd reason, I just started thinking about now, where that's sort of the thing that you need to play out. That this is your path to walk, and that's all you got to worry about. Don't try to get into anything else, because that's not your thing. So I don't know if any of this made sense. Probably not. This was completely, it's the classic. It all, you're milling around and you start having these thoughts, and they all sound so great in your head, and then you actually start to put them out there, and suddenly it's like, wow, it's kind of dumb. So But yeah, it's, as I said early on in the video, I will probably, so for the rest of December, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on and focusing on just building more momentum. And I think in the new year, in January, early January, I will come back and commit myself to 1 year, one more year of vlogging. I think probably once a week, every Sunday. That seems the most appropriate, right? You know, Sunday, you kind of sit, relax, reflect on the week, and, you know, focus on, here's what I've done, here's what challenges I've been having, and keep, you know, maybe some minor thoughts here and there, but do it the way I should have done it a long time ago. You know, an actual, like, here's a progress report, and then keep it to that, whether it's something there's something to talk about for an hour, or maybe it's only just going to be several minutes. Hey, this has happened and working on that, but, well, turn on the camera, could only talk about for 3-4 minutes, so I guess that's that. And then, we'll see. At the end of the year, next year, make a final decision and then commit to it. And just, you know, pick a direction and not sort of do this thing where you're trying to walk multiple paths and are you here? Are you not here? Do you still care? Do you not care? You kind of need to, you know, you need to decide. So if at the end of next year I find out that, or, you know, if it's sort of obvious that, you know what, I think that's about it. I don't think that there's really anything left to do. I will, you know, I've gotten what I needed to out of here, and it's time to simply move on and not draw this out any further. I don't enjoy it anymore. There's no point, whatever. I will make a final video, say my goodbyes, log off, and just go away forever. And you know, just focus on the next stage of the journey, if you will. But, you know, if there is still something left to it, if some benefit comes from it, I don't know. Maybe doing it that way will help keep me accountable. And it'll be like, okay, you know, this turned into a year where it was good, you know, so keep it going. Then I'll do that. And I will commit one way or the other. I mean, if I had to base how I feel now, I would honestly say I would probably just log off and disappear forever and just focus on whatever next, right? But the thing is that I've never really done this thing the way that I should have long ago. So I'd at least like to give it one more shot. And so, you know, so, well, why are you bothering if you feel that way? Well, like I said, well, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But, you know, if that is the case, then this will be one last ride, so to speak, and just enjoy it for what it's worth, and then put it away and then move on. But then I'll know for certain, rather than have that sort of feeling in my head of like, you know, was it me am I basing that just because my natural tendency is to hide away and run away from things? So that'll be the thing. I think January 3rd is the first Sunday. So that's when I'll make the next video. Like I said, this is if you're in it for whining, complaining, something about forever alone, this, like, no, that's gone and that's over with. That is gone and that is over with. This is going to be just strictly a year of self-improvement, if you will. So and I'm not going to argue with anyone or debate or try to convince anyone of anything. It doesn't benefit me, it doesn't benefit you. Let's just leave it there. If you don't like me, if you think I'm delusional, if you think I'm stupid, if you think I'm whatever, I mean, that's fine. The only thing is, just leave me alone, please. I don't want to have any more of this just arguing or anything like that on the internet. That is truly, there are definitely things in life that are just these battles that you can't win, or if you do win, there's nothing to gain. And our internets and heated debates and stuff on the internet are just, those are losing battles, and it does absolutely nothing. I'm just going to stay in my little corner here, do my thing. After a year, if I need to leave, I will leave forever. If something comes of it and it's some sort of benefit, then I will continue on, but I'm not going to bother anyone. Not going to go anywhere. I'm just here in my corner, in my lane. Stay in your lane, doing my thing. If you don't like me, whatever, that's fine. I'm just asking you, just a heads up now. Please, just leave me alone. We don't need to bug each other. We don't need to fight or anything. There's plenty. The great thing about the internet is that you've got lots of options. There's a lot of things that you can watch that you agree with and you like, and you like what that person's doing. That's fine. So don't say I didn't say anything, okay? Well, I don't know if any of this made sense. Probably not. But I know the story now that I got to play out. That is my path to follow. Whether I'm able to defeat the monster in the end, or I simply wasn't strong enough, and I'm the one who's defeated and crushed. But refusing the call is probably not wise anymore. All right, I will see you January 3rd, 2021. Bye-bye.